Hello, everybody. Welcome. What should we add? Hurry up and load. Try something else. Back to G where we're safe. Ooh. Something got distorted in there. Oh, that keyboard sound. Isn't that cool? Let's do something with the BPM stuff. Anyway, welcome to a new live stream. What is today? August 17th. Holy cow. Time just flies, my friends. Flies, flies, flies. Yeah, an augmented over a major. I like that. Anyway, welcome. My name is John Skippy Limcool. This is the Plugin Guru live stream. Yeah. So to start with, I'm going to show you guys a free plugin that is pretty darn cool. Let me do this. I need to get my mail up so I can get the, actually it's Auburn. I know that. It's Auburn, A-U-B-R-N. Auburn Sounds. They're a relatively new company. Here they are, so you can see them for yourself. Got it, thank you. And they have a new effect called panagement. It's like management, but for panning, right? And the cool thing about this is they have a free version which has its binaural audio. So you're doing true perspective stereo panning. I'll show you in a second, it's pretty cool. It has a reverb built in, that's free. If you buy the full version, then over here you have a delay unit that's included, and you have this really cool chip mod, which has all these different like hot wire settings to turn on and off that change all sorts of things in the sound. I'll show you in just a second. But The website is auburnsounds.com. As far as I know, I got an email from the guy. He sent me a note earlier this week. I think this is the first video introducing this plugin that anyone's ever made, he said. So yeah, really nice guy. I probably won't say his name right. Guillaume. I'm horrible with Guillaume. Guillaume. Unique name. Sorry if I'm not saying it right. But this is really cool. Let me show you what this can do. For free, it's pretty insane. So let's pop it up on this so we can let's play with this. Let's stereo perspective this. So here it is. Here's your stereo perspective. You can do you can add reverb. Pretty cool, huh? Now, if you buy the full version, you get it has an LFO in it, so you can actually do things like and you have controls here over all these parameters for the depth. So you can do some really cool stereo imaging things. Like put something in the right, like a hi-hat, have this on it so it's like playing the stereo field a little bit, then have something on the opposite side doing the opposite, inverted at depth. There's all sorts of fun possibilities. This interface is great. I love this interface. And you have all these different types of reverb. I mean, it's it's really, really well done. You have some warmth controls, you have tilt, some things to mess up the sounds. Oh. Yeah, my computer loved that. Let's call that out, get my buffer back. It seems a little buggy with memory buffer things. I've had it go kind of fritzo on me a couple times like that. Nothing major. Just make it go away and... So this is free. And again, there's another version which has the delay that you can get for like 23, 25 euros, something like that. So if I was to call up Omnisphere and let's have it do like a drum groove so we can hear some of these other things that are happening. Let's go to Beautifully Broken, to one of these that's... Let's go back here. I mean, there's so many possible things to do with this. Turn on reverb. So you can hear the different ones. So you can do all sorts of fun stuff. And then you go up here to the LFO. And maybe do have that. And then have it pan. Then have that going on while you have the bass from something else. Here's Sublab, which we're going to look at in a minute. Right? I mean, it's cool. You can play with the stereo imaging in cool ways with this. So, if you want to play with the new effect, again, it's a little iffy on memory at times, but it hasn't crashed. It's just your audio buffers might freak out. There's something they need to fix in there. But it's really fun. I'm having a really nice time. This is definitely something I'm going to be using, especially since it has free reverb that has unique qualities. These chip settings. They do stuff, stereo imaging, all sorts of things. Here, let's kind of move into this side. So you go like this and pan. See how it seems to be the opposite? It's like got inverted somehow. And here's your delay you can turn on. And it has an XY pad. So you can do some cool stuff. So anyway, enough with that, but be aware this just came out, and if you need to do stuff with stereo imaging that's automatable or can have an LFO with different shapes and stuff to assign to it, you know, you can do some really cool stuff with this. Let's get really fast. So if you want, like, you can do all sorts of different approaches to how to use this LFO in cool ways, okay? So that is the free Panjament, panning management, binaural audio, all sorts of cool capabilities. I was really impressed with this and wanted to share it with all of you so that you could be aware of it. Oh. My daughter is getting her first tattoo as we speak. Oh. Oh my. It's done already. So, cool. Yeah, she got a tattoo in a place that's sensitive. It's her first tattoo, and it's over here on the rib cage. But she did it. All right. So, yeah. Sorry, guys. I, you know. Can't wait to see it! Exclamation point. All right. So, anyway. That is pretty cool for the money, right? So that was fun. I want to, let's see here. So today I thought there's a couple of other things I want to talk about. One of them is my buyer's guide. I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to try to make it kind of a cool one and put some production time into it. And, those where people are talking and there's stuff happening, and not just a live stream, but it's about the buyer's burnout. Warnings for buyer's burnout. I'm getting more and more emails from people, 2,500 patches for $25, 68 gigabytes for $39. Just crazy prices, and they don't realize how badly they are hurting this industry by doing this, because people will buy one or two of those and then they won't buy any more, and now they can't sell anything, and they were selling for so little compared to what they should have been selling for. I don't know. Some people think it's cool because they're getting exposure, but I think that it's not a good thing. So I made this list of top 10 things to do. There's 5 or so before you buy, and then there's 5 things to do after you buy that you should do to make sure you maximize your purchase. The whole idea with this is how do you get the most out of this? Let me check chat. I haven't even seen what you guys are talking about. So, sheep tattooed pie. No, she did not. I have this issue all the time. Welcome. Greetings. Yeah, cool. Okay. I got a weird feedback in my ear. So this list has, like I said, here's before you buy. Questions you should ask before you hit the buy button. Number 1, is this something I really need? If it's like there's a plugin for making gun sounds, right? Do you really need that? For what you're loving to do, what your musical tastes are, do you really see reaching that far that you're going to want that? Whatever it is. If you do chill, do you really want 2,500 dubstep serum patches, So think about that. Read carefully what you are buying. A lot of these are loops. That means they're pre-baked song ideas that you have to work with. Look to see how many patches, how many loops, how many one-shots, how many midis they include. A lot of them say just, 500 midis. It's like, oh, what's that? Do they provide naked song demos? This is an important one. We do this for all of the demos for all of our libraries because we typically will use things to sweeten the full demo. The drum sounds, we'll use strings, we'll use other things depending on what the demo is. There should be a naked demo so you can hear the patches you're getting. So you know what you will actually get from this demo you're hearing that's knocking your socks off. If you buy this thing, it's like, dude, that's so dope. That beat is incredible. And it comes with no drum sounds. You were sold by the demo drum sounds that don't even come with it, right? So there should be naked demos, and most companies don't do that. So be cautious about those companies because there's smoke and mirrors all over the place. Do I have something that can do this better already? Is this the 3rd or the 4th string orchestra you're buying? What is about this that's going to make it like so much better that you'll never use the other ones that you've been using? If this is these types of sounds, do you have another library that does those sounds already that's more flexible? Most of these really cheap libraries that you buy are not going to be fully programmed out with controllers. They're going to be basic patches for the most part in a lot of cases. Need the gun sounds to keep the gun in check, the neighbors in check. I love it. So make sure that you kind of go through a checklist of what you have. Look in I have a folder that's my sample libraries folder. Hello. So I'd come over to the sample libraries folder and I would see what is in here, what I have to work with. Go, make sure that it's something that is relevant to what you do that you don't already have, or else it's something that's going to do something better. And then finally, the last one is just basically, when was it made? Do some research. If it's like you're trying to get really cool, unique signature sounds, and if you're working, especially if you're working in big productions and stuff, you might not want to buy something that was made, 7-8 years ago if it's sample based. A lot of patch libraries, I could call out my first FM8 patch library that I made in 2009, and it still is great. I showed that last week. I think we talked about that. So just check, because when there's samples, there's less you can do to change them. and they'll be recognized, you know, on lots of things. So, you know, a lot of things have happened also with the actual programming of the interfaces. If it's something for contact, if it was made 7 years ago, there were fewer capabilities, and people didn't program quite as deeply. It's one of these competitive things with a lot of the contact libraries. It's like, oh, Heaviosity just did this, so now everybody adopts and does things like that. Or, you know, Spitfire has this, or ADO does that, or somebody. There's always chasing the flag, right? So if it's an older library, you're going to be dealing with something that maybe doesn't have the interface like what you have in the newer libraries. So be aware of that, okay? So then you go, okay, I understand all this stuff, Skippy. I know that I need these sounds. So you buy them. So what do you do after you buy them? First of all, a lot of these are to buy like a whole bunch of sample packs or a whole bunch of actual sample libraries. A lot of these places work like my website, where you can log in after the fact and it lists what you've bought so you can download it at any time in the future. So just download one thing at a time. You got to realize with some of these libraries that they're huge. Huge amounts of times were put into them. It's kind of like, some of you will remember and some of you are too young, but it'd be like going to a CD shop and taking home like a dozen CDs. It's like, you never want to do that. That's just, don't do that. Because you'd have 12 CDs and you'd listen to your favorite one and maybe a little bit of another one, and then the other 10 you'd never play. You just didn't have time, you got sidetracked, and so you end up with these CDs that you've never even heard, right? With these, go through them. Take your time. Listen, just download one of the libraries, load it up, go through it, make notes as you're going. Then download something else in the future, add that, chew on it a little bit. You can do them a step at a time. So that way you're not downloading all of them. They don't all go to your hard drive. They don't all just go into this abyss that doesn't get touched anymore, right? So that's one thing. Learn the interface and what unique things that what you bought offers. If it's something for contact, for example, you can go to, let's do this from contact. If you go to Super Macho Drums, this library that I've created of drum samples, you can load up any of these kits. You could say load up Maximus or something like that, right? And it will load up the samples, but all of these work where you can go in, and I've got videos on YouTube that show how to do this, but you can go to the mapping editor and the group editor, and what you do is you select everything. Oh, here, let's go up here. You can select everything but one and delete them. Right click, say delete those zones, and then you can go up here and you can say purge the empty group, so you only have one zone. And now you can drag any sample files that you have from your anywhere on your hard drive. I could go over here to, let's see if I go back to here, and I go to my drum hits folder, and I go, and here's a whole bunch of percussion samples from, I don't even know where are these from. This is, oh, this I think is maybe one of my folders of samples. So let's, oh, here's a whole bunch of hits. Like, let's say I wanted, or kicks. Let's just go kicks, right? So I just click and drag these over here, and I can get them to be single notes. I can let up on them. And now I've loaded my own samples in. Now they're not currently working with this interface, but it's really easy to do this. You just say, select all of these, and you right click and you say, move each zone to its own group clone. And by doing that, it will clone this one group that's up there. So now they all have been joined up with this ability. They can all have different pitch, different pan. This can have this reverb setting. So I can do this with this library. We designed it so that it'd be really easy for you to replace your own drum sounds in this like that and go crazy, right? A lot of them won't let you do this. a lot of them are very complex and they have things nested. There's all of these groups that go forever and it's confusing. But this was designed on purpose to be simple so that you could replace the drum sounds. So know that you can do that with what you buy. It just makes it that much more valuable to know that you can do something cool like this to get new drum sounds out of it instead of having to be stuck with whatever it comes with. If you go to some of the native instruments and stuff, they're complicated enough that it's really hard to know how to do that. So know the capabilities of the plugin that you're buying. Okay, now this is an important one. You have to play through the library to know what you actually bought. Don't just buy it, put it on the hard drive and go away. Get out a notepad. If you have Omnisphere, you can go through a library. And if you go actually to go to hit, let's initialize the multi so it resets everything. And get this centered back over here. If you're here and you hit the little folder button, all of the patches everywhere are set up to where you can easily go over here and there's a rating system. And, ooh, I like that, 5 stars. And I like this, 5 stars. And let's say I want to go 5 stars. So I just 5-star the things that I really love. My unstable piano, I love that. So now when I come to this library, next time I'm at a session or something like that, I can go down here where it says sort and I can say ratings and it will join up all of the ratings highest to lowest right on the spot. So now I can have my favorites through whatever libraries show up. So those are ones that I like to use. There they are to work with. So do that type of homework. A lot of plugins won't let you do this. Serum and stuff like that, they don't have that. So you need to make like a piece of paper and just write down notes of the patches that you like, that you want to use, that this would be great for this. By making notes and stuff, it will just soak in more what you got. Because you want to know what you spent your money on so that you don't buy a duplicate of it later. So that's how you go through that and do that stuff, right? Try sounds in ways that they were not designed to be used. For example, if I go to the 808 key bass, just so happens basses make great leads. So maybe for some film track that I was doing, I wanted to have this, and then I just needed to have some sort of really cool, like a 3-tap delay. Or whatever, you know. It uses sounds in different ways. When you're going to something like, you're gonna see Signs of Life. Oh, wow. So it shows ratings even from here. I didn't know it could do that. When you go ratings, it will show you here your ratings that way. So you can see the ratings and actually rate it while you're going through the library this way. That's very nice. I didn't know it worked that way. But if you go here to Signs of Life and you've got some sort of an environmental sound, right? These ENVs. Well, be aware that these types of sounds, if you get the attack fast, this works really cool as a sound effect layer on a bass. So I've got that now layered with Sublab. So effects that were supposed to be just sound effects, you can layer with other things really easily. Think about outside of the box approaches. You know, something that's a pad, you could go to something like Mega Magic pads, and these things that are nice and, oh, turn off our sub bass. Right? It's designed to be this huge lush pad, but if I set it to be move the sample start later, right? So things that are one way with just a few tweaks, you can make them something else altogether. So think that way when you're looking at the sounds. Also, this is an important one because we all have only so much hard drive space on our computers. If you go through a library and there's a folder that just, you will never use the sounds, delete the sounds, delete the samples that come for that sound, delete the whole library. If it's 25 pounds, $25 for a whole library, and you download this thing and it's like, this is really lame, I'm not going to use it, get it off your hard drive. Maybe it's 5 gigabytes of like kids singing and it's horribly recorded and it's useless, and so you never use it. So make sure that you optimize your hard drive so you can keep adding to your collection, right? So, and then in closing, this is a bonus number 11, 10, and 1. Remember, you're buying into a company when you buy from them. So make sure you know and trust who you're buying from. If they are new, will they be around in the future for support? Are they going to keep making new libraries? Is it someone you know? Do they have a history? That's why hardware doesn't, let's see here. I'm not giving opinions on libraries. So I'm sorry, Kajal, I can't comment on that. That's up to you guys to look at the libraries. I know, but I think it's more fun. See, okay, so here's a comment. Wismos goes, I'm already enough software. So this goes with plugins too. I mean, if you see my plugin list right now, it's like, it's crazy. But I need to be checking it with lots of other things that are going on. Let me see here. Oh, that's awesome. Seeing the tattoo for the first time. Yeah, really nice. Cool. It's a little stairway up to right under her armpit. But not in the armpit. I was like, don't do the stairway to armpit thing. So it's perfect. It's really cool. So be aware. You can really easily burn out on this. And it's important to keep streamlined. You can really easily do with minimal amounts of things. You don't have to have every one of everything that's out there. I mean, it's nice to have lots of options, but it can also get to be overwhelming. And yeah. So those are my thoughts. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that helpful? Stairway to armpit. Copyright issues. Okay. Customers texting me for technical support. Anyway, that was my thoughts on that issue. So if you have anything to add to that you think would be important, let me know. Let's move on to our next subject. And that is, we'll do basses last. I want to show you, check this out. I had a really fun opportunity to go to, what the heck is this? Oh, so in photography, I love photography. And I don't get out often enough, and this is really fun to get out. This is showing full moon, and the moonrise, and then the moon set at 7:12, and the sunrise is at 6:15, which means that the moon would be right here in the sky during sunrise from behind. The sun's coming from behind, the moon is setting over here. So I went to the ocean to try to photograph this. And it just so happens, the way Mother Nature works is insanely, I love science for this stuff. There's always a low tide during this event. And Ecola has it's out by Cannon Beach. Ecola State Park here in Oregon has some really cool sea stacks that you can go down and photograph. And normally there's water here and you can't get down to this place or this place because you're in the ocean right now. And I'm going to walk all the way over to the other side of these sea stacks. And it's just fun. Oh, here's this. hide this stuff for a second so you can see. I love the trees, and I love that this kind of looks like a starfish in some ways, and there's these little starfish down here at the bottom and so forth. And the feather from a seagull, I didn't plant it. It was right there, so I used it. In fact, it was dancing around in the wind. Nice stuff. And then, so here we go. I love this. This is on the other side of the stacks. This is normally like multiple feet underwater. So the idea was I wanted to be here, frame this, and have the moon right there. It was going to be awesome. But look at those clouds. They were socked in clouds. There was no chance whatsoever of it showing the moon. So I got skunked, but I still had a nice time. It's so beautiful to be in places like this and see these. I had to do a portrait, you know, one of those silly looking out types of things. These look like penguins. I was really surprised. And someone has to explain to me how we can get these guys. They don't have feathers. I don't think they can fly. It's like, what the heck are you guys doing in Oregon up high on a sea stack, way up high, right? I mean, I don't know. It's pretty funny. So that was fun to see things like that. This is a lighthouse that's no longer occupied out in the ocean that used to be there to protect. Just like people would be out there, like 2 guys worked there at a time, I think, for like 3 months at a time. They would boat out there. Just crazy. The starfish are beautiful. Yeah. So that was the photo trip that I took a couple days ago. I wanted to share it with you guys. It's fun to see this type of stuff, and then this feeds into my fuel for doing, you know, sounds. So a lot of inspiration comes from getting out and seeing this beautiful world that we live in and turning that into inspiration. So it was really fun. Really fun. Beautiful, beautiful out there. I hadn't been to Ecola in like probably 3 or 4 years. So it was nice to get back and to see. I was encouraged to see as many starfish as I did. It's really nice. So that was a fun outing. Oh, they do fly. Oh, the common mirror. Okay. They look like puffins. Yeah. Yeah. We need a library with effects including thunder, rain, animals. Alcids. Interesting. I love it. We've got guys that know birds and nature and stuff. That's great. Very cool. Okay, so it's not a penguin, but it looks like one. It's got a little tuxedo. I realized it wasn't a penguin because it just doesn't make sense that they would be it'd be like something like that. Or a library with verse sounds. Reverse could be fun. Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's so many places to go. If you need inspiring sounds, by the way, let me please point to you that my website is available for you to peruse. There's a 20% sale going on this weekend. Libraries for all these different plugins. Colors came out. All of these different products are there. No, they're not 90% off, nor will they never be 90% off. We talked about that last week too, didn't we? But I appreciate your support. It keeps me in business so I can keep doing these live streams and making sounds for everybody to enjoy. Next up is bass. There's a number of new kids on the block that do bass. And so it just seemed to me it might not be a bad time to play with these 4 plugins. The Cyclops resize. I was curious if it had any kind of... This is a... Cyclops is one of those that's been around for a while. Nope, those are the people. Okay. And then, of course, one of the kings on the block is Spectrasonic's own Trillion. And it kind of stands out. We should probably start here because it does both synth bass and acoustic basses. It's Trillion because it does the electric basses, acoustic basses, and synth basses. That's why they call it Trillion. It has a very old interface. They have not updated it since the very first days, which means this is like the list of effects that came with Omnisphere version 1. So that's, and Stylus RMX. These are the tools. There's still great tools. There's just a lot has been added in Omnisphere that they've never added here. You have all sorts of you can go, I want to go to the bass instruments, and they have Chapman bass, clean Fender. One cool thing that they did with these is when you go to the true staccatos, one cool thing is that they do a monolegato within a certain number of notes. They go one step further. Let me get, let's see if I go like this and I say put show MIDI over here. Oh, whoops. Turn that off so I can have this going. One thing that they do with bass that's really cool is that right here, it's a whole different map. And they're different samples, down and up. And if you go an octave lower, there's slides, glisses on some of these maps. They have all sorts of gliss. All sorts of effects for the bass. So if you take and make a couple MIDI channels of these, the hardcore finger bass. Is it loading or what? If you knew how many songs on the radio are using these basses, you'd be shocked. So you have all sorts of different basses, and then they have all the basses from Trilogy, which was the first version back with Atmosphere. So these that say TR are the Trilogy basses. So taps. Now the other plugins that I'm going to show you don't do any of this. Okay, but the thing that's cool with Trillion is it does all of those basses. Oh, it does the acoustic. So if we said acoustic bass guitar, there's the Martin. As well as acoustic upright. We could say bright, and it'll take it a minute to load because it's a lot of samples for this. As well as it also has the Trilogy acoustic bass, or the Trillion, is that in here? No. Even if you knew, I won't say anything, but anyway. Really nice. But then you go synth bass, and it's a whole... about any kind of bass you can imagine. especially when it comes to the analog and synthy kind of stuff. A lot of the Trilogy patches that are synth basses are ones I made back in the day. And parameter-wise, it's like Omnisphere. You've got a filter. You only have 2 mod envelopes to work with, but that lets you get at least into some of the rhythmic categories. Modulation, you've got 6 LFOs. You've got up to 2 layers that can be played. They're turned on and off over here. This is the old interface, kind of similar to Atmosphere, right? So that is, you got the effects, and you've got 4 different things in the common and each layer. So it does have a lot of capabilities there, and it has the arpeggiator. It's not it's the new Omnisphere 2.6 has so many more things you can do here as far as transpose. I don't even think this has transpose. This was the first version of the Omnisphere envelope arpeggiator, so there's not even a transpose parameter. So it's just, it'll just repeat what you play. Takes you back in time a little bit to load up some of the other plugins and go, oh, that's how it used to be. This is how the this is how it used to be. Now you look at the arpeggiator with all of the things that have been added. You've got all these abilities to transpose. You can do slides. You can do chords. You can do low note or high note priority. You can even do triplet, quadruplet, doubling dividers with rise and fall of velocities. All sorts of things. All the modes that you have to work with, those have all been added. Here's your modes now in what we had back in the day. So it's come a long ways. Still totally usable. There is a library that I created for this, which you can, the start and so forth, but oh, over here. Now, also, just so you know, the library base box is also available inside of Omnisphere. So if you go over here and you say base box, here it is. It will load up the patches. So this is using samples from Trilogy and Trillion, because they're available here inside of Omnisphere. If you say Trilogy when you have it, or Trillion, it will show you those sounds. And so the patches, it was possible to convert them so that they would work inside of Omnisphere. So when you buy a base box, you get it for both Trillion and for Omnisphere, which is cool. Let's turn this back on. And now let's go to some of the newer synths and see what has been added. What are some of the differences that we can... This is using the LFOs to do a pulse. Right? Okay. Now, Cyclops has been out for a while, so we'll start with this, but it has some really cool abilities with all of the... You've got LFOs. There's the idea of having different places to go for rhythms. You got to set it up and program it, which here's one it's doing automatically. you can see all the... So it has a unique vibe to it. It sounds very different than this is back when dubstep was huge, so the idea of getting motion in the sounds was really important. And so this was... The interface kind of works. It's a little confusing since you have, here's your synth parameters, your filter 1 and 2 for how it's going to be working. I actually haven't sat down and totally sussed out how to make this do its thing. Right? So Cyclops is a interesting... Plays across the whole keyboard. So that's one bass that's different. It's synth-based, motion-based oriented. Sublab, I really dig this one. This came out earlier this year. Now, this is for the people that need the 808 sub kind of thing, right? It's really aimed really heavily at doing that. It's really not like you're not gonna find Moog. You're not gonna find analog basses. You have some cool controls. You have up to 3 different sound sources that can be used at once. And if these are on, you have your mixer section here. You have a filter. You have to choose a percentage. You have over here some cool tools for distortion. It can sustain. They do have sounds that are looped. You can actually edit the loop points. And it has crossfade built in. I believe you can put your own sample of this too. That's one of the cool things, if I recall, is yeah, there's good new pick packs, new scan, interface, browse samples folder. So I think if you put your own samples in here, they can be loaded right in, so you can play with them. So. It's all about the sub, man. And it's really nice how they did it. Got a compressor to work with. Again, it's really focused and targeted. Having a kick for the root pitch to work with. Okay. Again, there's nothing to filter. It's so dark. Okay. Any questions on these guys as we go through this? Yes, you can get, that's one thing I should point out, and I didn't point out. When you're playing Trillion, if you own Omnisphere, you can load up the patches inside of Omnisphere, and now you can use the arpeggiator, you can use the effects, you can do all the things that Omnisphere now can do because it loads into Omnisphere. So I should be fair and point that out. I didn't point that out. So thank you for pointing that out, guys. That is very true. So that way you can get that type of a vibe loaded into Omnisphere to work with. So that is cool. Oh, I don't have Rob Papin's SBB. You ought to try making short tracks with these instruments. We could do that. For this one, we'd need to go to probably a, let's say, future bass. It's got all the snappy stuff, and you got all the stuff for bass. So let's see. And I would be like it. So we got our kick and snare. And quantize that puppy down. Oh, did I play poorly? I did. Da-da-da-da. I played really poorly. Wow. I'm so far off, I might do it again. Or we could just do this. Let's just shorten to one measure and fix it. So let's fix these. Ha! Let's see what's going on. And why? Oh, you're not looping it up. Oh, that's funny. Okay, I can fix that. The loop is not, for some reason, it was doing weird things. Okay. Ah, I screwed up. Let me do this one more time. Hi, how you doing? Oh, let's just play it one time. Okay, that's gonna be perfect. I know it, right? Let's go to 2. That's so strange. It's not letting me set the loop. Wow, I haven't seen it do that kind of a thing. That's really weird. And this can be there. Now I can play a bass. Took me long enough. And I want to pitch this up. Let me lock this note so I can. It'd be more smoother. And that snare is driving me crazy now. I liked it at first, right? There, that's cool. All right, so bass. Let's start with Trillion. Yeah, that's perfect for sub. Let's see, homie. 214. Okay, so let's do this. Let's use this for sub, and then we'll take the same pattern and shoot it over to Sublab. So, 2. I know that's too many notes for hip hop. And you're not playing. Why? It shows that I played it and that it's there, but it's not playing it back. Boy, we're having one of those kind of days. Okay, put it to Sublab. Huh. Let's take a look real quick. They're all MIDI channel 1. It plays when I click it, right? But it won't. Wow. I had to make a copy of it. Okay, let's go. Down an octave. So this is using just a sample. If I want to envelope this, I can't. So here's trillion compared to sublab. Of course, there are different patches and different focus, and I could probably try to make them. But let's keep moving on. We've got still we got another one to look at too. So Monument came out not long after Sublab. This is from Softtube. From what I can tell, it's mainly sample based. Lots of different samples, punchy, dark, rich. It goes a lot of places beyond just what Sublab does. So you'll see piano, bass, all sorts of things. Here's the presets. They have this interface for the presets that I am not a fan of at all. This is a waste of so much real estate for... One thing I like here is you have kind of some interesting controls. They did things very differently than other things. You don't have an envelope per se like ADSR, but you do have this to control whether it's more punchy or more legato. And if you want release, so it's changing multiple segments. You have pretty nice filter. You have a balance control between A and B. You have effects, which include spatialization, multi-band, ambience, drive. You can get a lot of cool different sounds. I will say one thing that I am not a fan of, and is disappointing in this, is that it goes up to F and then stops. You can't play above F. That's the highest note you can play. So if you're writing a song in key G, you can't play G, which just does not even make any sense whatsoever to me. But that is how they decided to work this. So when you're working with this, be aware of this special limitation that as you're playing on your keyboard, and when you get up to play G or F sharp, if you want to play F sharp, it also stops at low G. Let's see if we take this down an octave more so you can see. So they decided the range. I am not a fan of anybody that makes a plugin where they limit the range. It's just one of those things that irks me personally. Especially because of, I believe very strongly that lots of sounds, that'd be a killer lead sound, and I can't find out. Because it stops at F. So if anybody has any pull with Softtube, or if you want to try to change things, write an email to them saying, I really love Monument, but you gotta have it so I can play a higher range. Because I'm gonna say that to them too, because It just does not make sense to make something. And yes, it's for bass. But to say, oh no, you can't play those notes. Yeah, you can't go there. Now, as far as synthesis, this does have dirt. You have filters, you do have an LFO. You don't really have much as far as synthesis. You'll notice that with all these guys. This is basically playing samples. There's some really nice effects to play with. That's nice. But for me, it drives me a little bit crazy that I can get it snappy, but now I have no sustain. So there's no control here to have it be snappy. Like in Omnisphere or Trillion or something like that, you can do the same thing really easily. Go over here. Here's a sound that has sustain. If I go to the amp, I could say add. I can be snappy and I can sustain. Inside of Monument, it's there's no modifying this parameter. So if you want to get, like, if you zoom in on this and you make this really, and then you go to the effects and you call up a compressor and just push the crap out of it. So I can get snappy. And if I need snappier, there's other things you can do because it's a synthesizer. It has FM. This is one of the reasons why in Omnisphere, let's go, this is sub D tune. If we go to Omnisphere, we can call this up. And one thing that they added for these, like, okay, so that's, what's that called? Bass sub D tune sub. So let's go sub D tune sub. If you go to FM and Omnisphere, they now have boost. You now have all the access to all the waveforms. So you can actually get into some usable. The original implementation inside of the first version of Omnisphere, which is what you see here in Trillion, with a lot of sounds, it wasn't strong enough to really push it over. do have harmonia, but it's only 2 parts in Trillion. But again, you can load anything you want into Omnisphere. So the 4 basses, and then to really confuse things is then you get to these, any synthesizer can do bass, and the king on the block for a lot of people for bass sounds is this dude right here, because it's just, well, you'll hear it. Let's call up any of, like, I have a lot of the Sematics libraries because I like these guys, and they have some crazy, it's just in your face in a way. So because it has bend and it has FM and all these synthesis modes, it makes you wonder if you really need to go to some of these other ones. But that's for you to decide. I think the sub from Sublab, I think this is definitely a unique interface and so focused. If you do a lot of stuff with these types of sounds, it's a good place to go. Monument is unique. The samples are unique. These effects are great. You just have to be okay with kind of the quirks of... Yeah, you can get snappy, but it fades out really fast. So you have to be okay with it. Let's see, I think, can you right click? Setup, cancel. There's a manual. There's the presets. I don't see any way to do like a MIDI control. Like if I wanted to have, I want to click a button so I could suit that to the mod wheel. Stuff like that. But it is a unique sound. It does some unique things unto itself that makes it kind of its own category of bass. Cyclops is kind of old school, I would think. I think if you spent time learning the interface, you would get into some cool places with it. It kind of hurts that there's no, that I could see EQ tools and stuff like that for, you know, you can use the filters to do some shaping, but there's not much here for shaping other than the synth engine itself. And so much is importantly built on effects now to finalize these sounds and get them over to where you want it to be in the mix. And then Trillion is still king as far as the most flexible. If you're looking for just one thing that can do bass and acoustic bass and slap bass and funk bass, Marcus Miller is in here. Abraham Laborio is in here. Patitucci basses are in here. There's a lot to work with. So on that front there, if you say let's see here, we say all. I think, we would just go bass, slapped, bass, slapped. Am I limited somehow? Oh, I'm looking there. I need to say all. There we go. So then we go the hardcore slapped, studio slap. I think Then you get to the newer slaps. Slap Funk, Studio Funk. Let's see what this is. Load up. And again, I just want you to be aware there's things out there that are focused at bass and does some really cool stuff. Then you have all this sustains. Please wait while we load. And there's multiple samples in these, which is nice. There's stuff on the note off. So it's not just playing just a sample by itself. They're very well thought out and programmed, very playable, all sorts of categories of sounds. So to do all that, plus do all the synth-based stuff, it probably is the most flexible, but they all have their own little quirks and unique things that make them like, oh, I like that, I mean. And there's lots of synths. There's new synths now that are out that are equally capable at bass. So it's not just, there's plugins dedicated to it, but there's synths that can do it pretty well too. So I hope this doesn't cloud the water too much, but I just want to get, do I know Mondo Bass from IK Multimedia? I do not. I like that name though. I have not checked out them, Cornell. I will. Any other thoughts you guys have? Any plugin plans for Massive X? Nope. I can't play Massive X. It won't load on this computer. So I don't want to sit at the laptop at this point. And Massive X has a ways to go before it's a fun plugin to work with. I have sat on the laptop and worked with it a little bit. We need visual feedback in lots of different places. Things that will hopefully come out for it. It needs some help. It's kind of like, these don't give you a lot of feedback, but they're not doing something with a new term that says, punch is pretty clear, and you hear when you're doing something like that to the sound. There's all sorts of things in Massive X that you need visual to help just make it a more fun experience. And since I don't have it, have I played 2C Audio's Precedence? Did you give a try? I have VPS Avenger, which is nice. I have the 2C Audio effects. I do have Precedence. Let's see here. If you guys want to hear Precedence for a second. Oh, this is another stereo presence. I believe it might be similar in terms to the one that let's see, it's not working. I haven't played with this a lot, so I probably shouldn't be showing this at this point, but I did buy it in a pack that they had at the end of last year. They had that the reverb that they've released. I love Breeze, and Ether is definitely king for all sorts of lovely ambiances and stuff like that. Yeah, but Presidents is another of those stereo plugins similar to the one that I showed you guys earlier called Panagement. um, I just found this interface to be really fun to play with. And I tried, I think, at one point with the Panasmans, whatever it's called, from 2C Audio, Precedence. And it wasn't really, maybe I don't know what's going on in the same sense, but this has such easy controls for the LFO controls and the reverb and so forth. And there's a free version. I just wanted to make you aware of it. So there you go. Now, I will not be around next week, so there will be no live stream next week. Oh, it links with Breeze. I'd have to do some research before I was ready to call that up with all you guys watching. What synth instruments could we add to our collection to advantage of Oh, hold on. Yeah, there's something funky with Panagement going on. What synth instruments should we add to our collection to take advantage of Unify's patches you're creating? Let's see. Do I miss playing a trumpet? I like that question. I still have my trumpet downstairs. I've got my French horn. I've got my alto sax downstairs that I played in high school and stuff. Ken, it's really hard to answer that question. Unify is gonna have a whole bunch of its own patches, and then the really fun part is the dealing with all of your different plugins. We can make libraries with more than one effect and one synthesizer plugin at a time. We're aiming at by the end of the year, Ken. We've got a ways to go. Shane's been working like crazy on it. Do I have a video demonstrating how to use MIDI modulations on Machine Jam? I haven't made a video for Machine Jam. It's not that difficult to get up and running. You plug in a USB cable, you run the controller editor, and then all you need to do is set it up. So you would, if you're on A, then you make sure that you're on touch strip page A, because there's A through H, right? So you say A, and you double click this, and right here is where you see your position. That's the one you want to modify. This is one. This one is position 2. So that's MIDI CC2. Here's where you choose what MIDI CC you want it to be, and what color you want it to be. And you can touch this and hold it on the keys actually if you want, and it will show you what's going on. So this is MIDI CC4. All you do is touch things on the touch Machine Jam, or you can double click. It's position that you want to modify, and you just say MIDI channel and what controller number. That's how it works. When you're on control change, you don't want to use poly pressure, pitch bend, all the other things you can do. You could set those up, but for our Omnisphere libraries and stuff, you just go touch strip page A. So that means your A button will be lit, and you can go in and double click and say position 1, 2, 4, and 67, and have it set to absolute. Set your range minimum max to the minimum max. That's typically what you want to do. You could invert it if you wanted to. I'd leave it at 0 to 127. And then you just, it's really straightforward. So I think there's other videos from other people, and so I haven't really felt the need to do anything more than that. Yeah, exactly, Shane. It's not ready till it's ready. ID Software used to say that with Quake and Doom back in the day, you know, and it's Shane and me. That's all there is. And so it's a monumental effort that we are doing. And actually at this point right now, it's Shane. He's the one writing the code, and I'm the one keep my mouth shut and not asking for new features that I keep wanting to add that keep delaying it and keep making it so, oh no, we've got to do that too, you know? So we're trying to streamline it and do it right. We're talking with some other cool options that are going to be maybe tied in with this. It's a lot to manage, and I'm not used to managing something like this. So you just got to be patient. It'll be out when it's ready. Don't get excited yet. Not asking for new features. Exactly. No new features. Okay, but my dad turns 80 next week, and so I'm going to be in Montana. No, I'm going to be in Idaho. He's from Montana, but we live in Idaho. We're going to McCall, to a lake. All sorts of family will be there hanging out. So I won't be doing a live stream next week. So you're on your own. You got your Saturday free. Do whatever you want. I hope this was helpful to you. It was fun. And there's lots of cool bass plugins. Whatever you need, you know, they do things differently. So listen to demos. Be aware some are quirky. Some are kind of limited in their scope. Some are kind of old school. But if you own Omnisphere, Trillion is almost a no-brainer just because it integrates into Omnisphere so nicely. I mean, to have the samples available for you to work with at the same time you have all of Omnisphere's samples is really cool. I actually haven't done a library yet where I have done that. That'd be kind of fun to use Trillion inside of Omnisphere and use Omnisphere's samples along with Trillion. For Keyscape, I had to, really, because for Keyscape, there was only the keyboard sounds, and I wanted to be able to make all sorts of dreamy pianos and all these types of things that are piano plus, and you can't do that if you don't have the plus. And you know, this one, what are we using for this? Oh, so this is one that could have been inside of Keyscape because it's just using the two together, but a lot of these are using synth waveforms and all sorts of things. You know, so it was fun to make things. In fact, this is one where there's a hidden pad on this one. To do all that, I needed the Omnisphere samples to work with. But for the bass box, you can get it to work inside of Trillion or Omnisphere, and it's only using the bass samples found inside of the Trillion library. That's why it works in both, and you don't have to have Omnisphere. Keyscape and Colors is the first library I've made that requires two libraries working together. And there will be more things like that in the future when we get into unified territory where you need to have two different synthesizers before it will load the patches, stuff like that. Okay? So good times. Yeah. Thanks for the info. Good. Great live stream. Shout out. Hey, Ken's on top of it. Shout out from Camino Island, Washington to Ken. Right on. A multi with only choir would be nice to see. Well, there's a ton of choir inside of Omnisphere. You know that, right? If you go to the full library and you say choir, there's a bazillion. There's all of these choirs. There's boys choirs. Here, let's just say core library, all Spectrasonics. Boys choir, choral effects, women's choirs, gospel choirs, Gregorian choirs. there's a lot there, Ivar. Go have fun, my friend. Shout out from Amsterdam for Misha. Port Ludlow for Bruce. Shout out for MJ in Germany. Shout out from PDX for me. Yeah, okay. Thanks for watching. Be well. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Start working on music. I think the next one we might do some submit tracks that are using Plugin Guru patches, and we'll highlight them in a live stream and talk about what you did. Show them off. All right. So start working on some cool tracks, and I'll put out a post when I get back from my trip to remind you if you want to submit for a live stream to audition some music, have it play on a live stream video. That'd be fun. Something different. Okay. Be well. See you guys later. Bye.